Today, oh, thank you. So my name is Deanne Shaw. This is a committee of the whole meeting of the Aberdeen City Council. It is Wednesday, September 22nd, and it is 7:15 p.m. and I would call this meeting to order. At this time, I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you. Start with Andrews.
I'm confused that we have a city clerk and Patricia Soul, who's our city clerk. That's weird. That's not normal.
Actually, in the job description, it was so that the deputy clerk could run the meetings. So that was the intent of hiring a deputy clerk.
Oh yeah, that's that position we never got the vote on, but I'm here.
Ellis.
Good evening. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Francie.
I'm here. Yeah.
Gordon.
Here.
Kochman.
Here.
Mackey.
Here.
Meskis.
Present.
Richrod.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Shaw.
Here.
Short.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
And Shave.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do not have any guest speakers tonight. It is next on our agenda would be to ask our department heads to share with us what they can, either what is coming up on the agenda or items not on the agenda that they would like us to know. So I will start with our Community Development Director, Lisa Scott.
Thank you, Council President, City Council, and Mayor. Good evening. And so we've been hard at work on the comprehensive plan, and we're getting, we've kind of got a first draft that we're working through right now, and we hope to get that out for the public and have our public meeting here the first part of October. We've been getting some good feedback, so we're working through that. We continue to be fairly busy with permitting. It still seems to be coming in fairly steady. We've had a couple cases with the hearings examiner that have been taking some time, and we have one agenda item later on in the meeting. So with that, that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
If no other council members have a question, I had a question regarding the hearing examiner. I know we have a hearing examiner process, but is there any part in that process where it used to be the council that was the hearing examiner, right? So how does the council get informed about those things that go to the hearing examiner? Do we get the final opinion, or how do we eventually find out what they decided on?
With the rezones come to you come to you after the public hearing and via ordinance. The rest of it for conditional use permits, not typically, they don't come to council. I'd be more than happy to send those to you, but that's not something typically that does come to council.
Because I guess I'm going to give it some more thought, maybe bring it up again at a future council meeting for the members, because the hearing examiner is acting on our behalf. And so I was just thinking that it might be worthwhile for the council to know what the hearing examiner is doing on its behalf. And maybe that's something to think about. And
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. I'd be more than happy to send those out to you. And if you'd like, you can jump on and listen once in a while. We don't have very many cases that come before the hearings examiner, but this year in particular, we did have had 3 so far. So I'll be more than happy to send that out in the future.
Okay, well, maybe we can maybe formalize that after we have a chance to talk, so the council knows what to expect. So that'd be great.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for bringing that up, because I hadn't thought about the hearing examiner in a long time.
Yeah, it's not normally something I bring up, but that was a really good point, and I think that would be, it would be nice to include you guys in that, so at least you can see what we're working on, because you don't always get the day-to-day. And I understand that. So yeah, I think that's a good suggestion, and I'll do that.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you. So if council members don't have any other questions, we will, seeing none, we will move on to our Deputy Corporation Counsel Forrest Worgum, if he's on tonight. I don't see Forrest, but that's okay. I can't imagine, he must be really, really busy, so that's fine. Next is our Finance Director, Patricia Soul.
Finance Committee met tonight at 6 p.m. and I will defer the comments to the committee chair, Koshman. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is our Fire Chief, Tom Hubbard.
Good evening, Tom Hubbard, Fire Chief, Aberdeen Fire Department. Public Safety met at 6:30 tonight, and I will defer comments to Chair Andrews.
Okay, do any council members have a question for Chief Hubbard? Well, I do. Are you getting very much feedback to your video and the RFA?
I have, well, you're gonna steal you're jumping the shark on Councilperson Andrews, because I did
Oh, well, if
mention the
she's gonna
video.
talk about it, I'll let her, that's fine.
But she was just gonna mention that it is on the city website, but no, I have not received any feedback. Corey's been receiving questions on specific properties, and I'll just reiterate that if somebody in Aberdeen or Hoquiam wants to know what the RFA impact will be to their specific property, she is more than happy to walk them through that, and she has been doing that on a regular basis. And I have referred a few people to her, but I have not received any direct questions.
Thank you. And we look forward to hearing more from Councilmember Andrews. So next is our Human Resources Director, Debbie Mills.
Good evening, everyone, City Council, Mayor. I have nothing to bring forward tonight, and I will defer any committee items to the committee chair tonight.
Thank you. Do any council members have questions for our HR Director? Councilmember Ross. You're on mute, Debbie.
Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
Debbie.
I know you weren't here at the last meeting, but the question came up a couple of times about new corporation counsel, and Mayor Shave had indicated that he had asked you to move forward on advertising that position. So I wanted to know how that was going.
Actually, we're moving forward. I'm going to have a meet with Jeff Myers next week to have him help give us some really good websites and other sources that we can perhaps post. And so that's where we are moving forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Andrews.
So, but it's not currently posted on our on our homepage, on our City of Aberdeen page.
No, I've been working on trying to put together a brochure and get some really nice pictures as well of the city. And then I wanted to put that on our website.
Because all the other ones are listed, but not that one. So,
Right. It's close. It's almost there.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I would just like to state that there's an urgency here. You know, we're without permanent corporation counsel. We lost one of our public works engineers that did many things for our city. We have a lot of open positions, and I know that it's a rough job, but we've got positions that we've got to get filled. So I just want to stress that we have urgency here, and you know, whatever we can do to get these things out there as quick as possible. We really need to see that happen so we can get these filled and keep the city going. So I just wanted to stress, I know it's a tough job and everything, Ms. Mills, but I just want to stress we're getting a lot of feedback from people that, you know, we need to see these positions out there and being interviewed for.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, so actually all of them, the city engineer has been posted. We're working on getting some additional websites as well. And I met with Chris and Director Sangder to try to find out what are some other ways we could get out there. Even thought about perhaps looking for a virtual job fair. So they are out there, they are posted. I think need to start looking at different ways to actually get out there and not wait for individuals to find our website. But thank you.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. In the last AWC newsletter, they featured several jobs in other cities, and it got me thinking that perhaps Aberdeen could have some of our jobs featured on the AWC site as well.
Yes, that's a really good idea. I typically do like to post on the AWC website. The city's website called Government Jobs, that actually also links up with Indeed.com. So we do get out there with that. Government Jobs is a nationwide website, which is our recruiting software. So that's a few of the other places that we start advertising at. So I guess and then also we're going to be looking for the public works engineering positions. There's some specialized websites like APWA, the Association of Public Works, or Waterworks, or yeah, I know it's going to be an interesting recruitment. Thank you again.
Any other council members? So I had one question. So the job description for corporation counsel has been reviewed, and you're not recommending any changes. We're all good there.
Yes, I haven't seen any changes to it. So it wasn't that long ago too. I think it might have been in 2019. I'd have to go look that up. That there was the changes made to it.
To the job description?
Yes. It was updated, I think, in 2019.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Seeing no further questions from the council, next is our Parks Director, Stacy Barnum.
Thank you. On the agenda tonight, I have 3 items. A lot of it will be discussed during Finance Committee. We will probably be pulling, well, hopefully the council will pull the committee report regarding the IT services for the museum. I found out from Patricia and Wayne Schmidt that we're able to use the existing consultants that we use for IT right now. So there won't be an additional expense for that. And we should be able to link up the museum computers to the city server. So that's nice. We should be able to save some money there. We talked about the capital facilities plan. I think at the last meeting, I updated you all that I'd sent out to about 400 consultants, received 1 submission. We scored that submission, and then Tom Hubbard and myself did an interview. They're an excellent candidate. They gave an excellent presentation. The capital facilities planning process is a much larger process than I'd realized. They showed an example of a plan they're putting together for Everett, where they go through and they'll evaluate all of our facilities, every building, structures in our parks, bridges, trails. They'll put a plan together for maintenance, what needs to be taken care of now, what needs to be taken care of in a year, 2 years, 3 years. In addition to a maintenance plan, they'll be taking a look at the facilities that you as a council have been talking about and considering. Things like the levee project, the new police and fire station, museum, Gateway Center. I know that Katie Kochman, Council Finance Committee Chair Kochman, will be going over that a little bit more. And there's a possibility of tabling that until the meeting next week, so I can get a little bit more information for the council. And then the last item I have on the agenda is the MOU with Grays Harbor College Baseball. This is something that we do annually with Grays Harbor College. They use our facilities for both baseball and softball. Usually it's just for games, and this one's a little bit special in that they want to practice at our facilities. And that's all I have at this time, unless anyone had any questions. Yes, Ellis.
Councilmember Ellis.
You're
You're
muted.
unmuted, Liz.
Thank you. Director Barnum, as you're talking with the consultant or the people, the group that's interested in working for us about capital facilities, are they recommending that Aberdeen initiate an asset management plan as well?
You mean smaller assets?
No, that the approach to the capital management planning and scheduling be based on asset management strategies. So
Oh, I'm sure, yes. I'm sure that will be a part of the proposal that they put together and the plan that they put together for the city. Yes.
knowing the cost of that will be really helpful before we get too far into budget.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you. I just wanted to say you must have been reading my mind because I was actually going to ask about the museum server requirements and why it couldn't just be hosted on the city's server, because it's like it's all the city stuff anyways. So why do you need two? So I wanted to say thank you for really looking at that and taking that into consideration.
Absolutely. Actually, Patricia's the one that brought it to my attention. So I appreciated her thinking outside the box. That was something I hadn't thought of. The museum hadn't been connected to our server before because we had a contracted group. So you're right. It makes total sense to have it all connected to the city server. There is one more item that I forgot I needed to bring up. We started hauling the turf to the dump. And we're at about $10,000 and we're only halfway through it. So this is something I have them stop because I think you approved up to somewhere in the $10,000 range. This is something that I can add to my budget for next year to haul the rest of it. But I wasn't really comfortable spending another $10,000 for a total of $20,000 to dump all that turf without council approval.
Getting rid of a free gift. Yay.
Yeah. Thankfully, the Grace Harbor Community Foundation is very good to the city of Aberdeen. So I'll be bringing that forward at a later time, but I wanted to let you know we've started that and it ended up costing considerably more than we were anticipating. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any council members have any additional questions for Director Barnum? Okay. Police Chief Shoemate.
Thank you, Council President Shaw. Steve Shoemate, Aberdeen Police. And as Chief Hubbard mentioned, Public Safety did meet earlier this evening. Police Department we have no items on the agenda tonight, and I will defer further comments to Public Safety Chair Tawny Andrews. And I'm available for any questions.
Does anyone have anything for the chief tonight? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our Public Works Director, Rick Sanger.
Thank you, Council President Shaw. We met yesterday, Public Works Committee met yesterday at 4 o'clock for about an hour and a half to discuss a number of items. And I will leave those for our committee chair, Meskis, and I am available to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Director Sanger? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our department head reports. Next on our agenda is the mayor's report. Do you have anything for us tonight, Mayor Shave?
Yeah, I was asked to mention the RFA also. Information's on the city website. Go to departments at the top of the page. And on the left is the fire department. At the bottom is information about the regional fire authority. Tawny might even have more on how to get to that and make it easier. Also, the city needs volunteers to apply for the Civil Service Board. Contact Human Resources Department 360-537-3207.
So Mayor, when you say volunteers, do you mean council volunteers or members of the public?
Members of the public are usually on the Civil Service Commission,
Okay,
and Margot's been on it. Is on it. And they meet on the third Monday of the month at 4:30. So it's a once a month meeting. I wrote down to mention the September 29th council meeting, but it sounds like council's already planning on meeting on that date. Generally,
what were you gonna recommend?
well, I don't, it's up to the council. We usually cancel the third meeting of the month, but if there's issues, Patricia?
The revenue projections are scheduled to be presented on that date on the budget calendar. That can be changed. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that was why.
Well, that's what I suspected, was it had something to do with budget, and that's fine with me to meet on the 29th. I just made a note of it to bring it up. So, Rick?
Public Works also has committee reports coming forward on the 29th.
Okay. Okay. I might mention that revenues are at 78% on a 58% target, so we're considerably up, but I'm pretty certain that has to do with ARPA funds, which are included in those revenues. So it's probably not all as rosy as that looks, but I suspect we're real close to the 58% if you took the ARPA funds out. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Do any council members have questions for the mayor? Councilmember Ellis.
Mayor, you mentioned the ARPA funds. Do we have any idea how much money we're getting from the current congressional budget that is sending out lots of money to states and local entities?
It's about 2.6 million. Patricia?
Yeah, we've got our first installment in 21. We'll get an additional installment in 22. So a total of over $5 million for ARPA that has to be spent by the end of 2024.
So right now with those funds, we're we're researching what's eligible to use them for. And then we're going to meet and staff's going to meet and come up with some things to spend it on, and then bring that to council. That's where we're at with it.
Thank you. Any other council members have questions for the mayor? Seeing none, we'll move into our non-standing committee reports. This is where council members have a chance to share what they've been doing since we last met that might not be on the agenda. First, we'll start with Councilmember Andrews.
Well, I attended the Council of Governments meeting last week, so that was, rather informative as always. It was a good that WashDOT was there, and they mentioned their mobile app. So, if you travel a lot, make sure you put that mobile app on your phone so you can see if there's any traffic issues and such not coming up. But other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. I attended 2 different days of the Blue Zones meetings. Blue Zones works with communities to improve health and economic vitality through creating partnerships at lots of different levels. So that was very interesting, and a lot of good input with those meetings. And then I also attended virtually the Friends of the Museum meeting on the 16th. So I will be looking forward to hearing more what comes from both the Friends of the Museum and the Museum Board, guiding the future of our Aberdeen Museum. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Francie.
Hi, I was able to do a cleanup of the permanent boat launch, Curtis and Boone. Lots of cigarette butts there. That's all I got. Thank you.
Councilmember Gordon.
Yes, I missed Public Works meeting last night because we had a 911 administrative meeting to go over the budget for next year. I'm really happy that most of the projections that we got from the operating committee, which makes up, our chiefs and that, stayed really close. We had a couple cities that did have cost raises, but Aberdeen, Hoquiam, and that we've stayed pretty much in line. It's always nice if we can keep our costs pretty close to what we're supposed to. So that's where I was at last night. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cashman.
Good evening. I attended a couple meetings. First one was the Southwest Washington Regional Transportation Planning Organization, I believe that's the full name of it. That meeting was held on 9/16 virtually over Zoom, and we approved the 2022 through 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program via resolution. They also announced that the transportation alternatives is in a call for projects phase right now. And for anyone not familiar, it's in support of primarily bicycle and pedestrian projects within the city. So the funding is given between 2024 and 2026. And I believe there's about 1.2 million that's available for projects. It does require a local match of 13.5%. I'm sure Director Sanger knows about it, but just wanted everyone else to be aware. Also related to Aberdeen, the Transportation Planning Organization also signed a letter of support for the Highway 12 rail separation project as well for us. So I thought that was really nice that someone at the city, I'd imagine Director Sanger or Mr. Koski had reached out to them to let them know how important it was, or perhaps another legislator. So I thought that was great. I also attended the Friends of the Aberdeen Museum meeting that was held on, I believe it was 9/16. I thought it was a really positive meeting, very well facilitated by the Friends. There are about 50 people in attendance, which I think really shows our community's interest in a meeting. Everybody was there because they wanted to see a museum back in Aberdeen. There were lots of great ideas brought forward regarding options that I felt were really practical options for the next phase of the museum. And I gathered a lot of feedback from the community, and I know the Friends did as well. And just to hear some of the background of the people that are on the Friends board and some of their involvement and their families' involvement as well with the original museum when it was put into place was, I thought, really impressive to see that it's passing from generations and the love that people have of Aberdeen's history.
Thank you. Councilmember Mackey.
Good evening. Yeah, I also attended the meeting on the 16th, though it was virtual, and I really enjoyed it and thought it was quite informative. And other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I actually do not have anything to report, as this month is kind of wonky. So the Historical Seaport Board meeting isn't until next week. So I will have more to report next Wednesday.
Thank you. Councilmember Richrod.
I too attended the museum meeting. I was impressed that I counted 55 people. There may have been more because it was just before the thing actually got going. But anyway, it was good to see. A lot of good ideas were flying around. That, I guess that's about, well, I might mention that the Downtown Aberdeen Association is moving into the Becker Building, and the Becker Building is slowly being repopulated with businesses and entities. And I saw, and I can't remember her name, the lady that bought Anne Marie's restaurant was in there trying out paint colors today, and she's working on that. Hopefully to be open before the end of the year. So things are happening. And Will and Terry Emmert have both said that the crime around the building has virtually ceased now that there's people in there and working. And so there's not the break-in problems that they've had, and it's things are happening downtown.
A bakery, Alan.
Yeah.
Right. The Boulevard Bakery.
Great. Well, thank you. Councilmember Short.
I was at the meeting, the museum, Friends of the Museum meeting also. But I want to follow up with Mayor Shave's comments on the Civil Service Commission. It's a commission of citizens and is required for police and fire hirees. The process goes through this commission. And so it's an important commission. And right now we are down 2 members. So we definitely need some people. They don't have to have any political background of any kind, any other qualifications, just to be interested. And as the mayor said, it's a once a month meeting. So if you have a neighbor, a friend that might be a good candidate, give Debbie Mills a call.
Thank you. Councilmember Taylor.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. And so I'll just conclude by saying that I also was able to attend the Friends meeting and found it very informative. And it was, I think it's going to be very helpful. So if council members don't have anything else, that concludes our agenda for the committee of the whole. It's 7:47 p.m. and I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. This is Mayor Shave. It is Wednesday, September 22nd, 2021 at 7:48. And I call the Aberdeen City Council meeting to order. Public comments and public hearing comments are included during the Zoom video meetings. The public was notified that if they wish to speak during the meeting, an email be sent to the city clerk and indicate that if they would like to speak or have the clerk read the comment. If they desire to comment live, they will be called on during the meeting and allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Written comments provided before the meeting have been provided to city council members and will be read into the record up to the current 3-minute time limit. City Clerk, will you please take a roll call?
Yes, thank you. Andrews?
Here.
Ellis?
Here, thank you.
Francie?
Still there.
Gordon?
Here.
Kochman? Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Meskis?
Present.
Richrod?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Shaw?
Here.
Short?
Here.
Taylor?
Here.
Shave?
Here.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting.
Mayor Shave, I would move to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to this meeting? Councilmember Katzman.
Thank you. Sorry, I was a little slow there. I would like to make a motion to delete the report from Finance and the Parks Director recommending that the City Council authorize the Park Director to hire an IT information technology consultant to determine the server needs and equipment needs to back up the museum files.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to delete report number 3 on the Finance Committee reports.
That's report number 2, sir.
Number 2, Paul. Yep. Sorry, thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, Councilmember Catherine.
Just as Director Barnum had stated, this will all be done in-house.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 will be pulled from the agenda. Okay. Now's the time for public comments on all topics. City Clerk, is there any public comments to read for the record?
There is, Mr. Mayor. We have 7 public comments. 4 were requested to be read. 3 have requested to speak. I will start with the 4 being read, and then we'll call upon the 3 if they are here in the audience tonight.
Okay.
Public comment number 1 submitted via email is from a Daniel McBride. It's a 3-part comment, and I will start the timer now. The trail on Stewart Park is still closed and there's no maintenance being conducted, and there's a sign announcing their maintenance being conducted. Another matter I have a complaint about: all of the emails and requests about the city council addressing an issue very important about one of the council members violating the municipal charter was not addressed at the city council meeting. They were all ignored. Every email was ignored. It wasn't even brought up. You bunch of clowns should have a book of Robert's Rules of Order in your kangaroo court there so you understand how to conduct business. Nobody voted for that thing into office, and Mr. Nathan Kennedy was voted for and elected. Third complaint: there's a narcotics camp situated directly behind City Hall. Remove it. There's no camping allowed in city limits. It is an ordinance. It's going to be enforced. It's entirely the decision of the municipality of Aberdeen if they want law enforcement officials to enforce this ordinance or if they want a militia to enforce it. Section 2, there are 3 issues that should be addressed. 1, illegal narcotic camps. 2, person after being voted in is a complete identity change and also violates municipal charter. 3, Stewart Park trails closed. The sign states there's maintenance being conducted. There's no maintenance being conducted. For example, this morning I drove behind Tractor Supply and there's a horrific scene unfolding. Looks like something out of Mad Max. Drive over there yourself. I'm sure the scene will only get worse. When I tried to turn in a suspicious vehicle, there's a truck over there with all the windows broken out, with human waste surrounding it, all sorts of trash and rubbish, 3 or 4 shopping carts tipped over, tents being disassembled, their vehicles hallucinating on meth. Like I said, human waste. To be careful where you step. It stinks. I ate fish out of that river. I feel desperate to take action myself, but I don't really want to get in trouble. I've already had enough trouble in my life. I get a feeling that civilization is about to collapse when I see such scenes unfolding. The icing on the cake, I called to report it, and the dispatch asked me if I was associated with the store. So I called the store manager. He told me he had already called 15 or 20 times in, and the police failed to respond or at least made contact with him. And whatsoever, this is a failure. Myself and obviously also the store manager are just a few examples of legitimate concerned citizens who are losing hope in this system that's supposed to be helping them, protecting us and keeping us in the community safe. On to public comment number 2. My name is Jamie Brand. I live in Hoquiam, but I am on the Aberdeen Board of Museum and History. In reading the agenda for this evening, I'm very disheartened. The insurance settlement for the museum building is being spent on other projects from the museum. First, the Welcome Center, and now the levy. As someone who helped raise funds for the museum after the fire, I feel betrayed by the current mayor. As a board member, I am greatly upset by the mayor's actions of denying a city council approved position and berating of that board for following the rules. My concern is whether or not the Aberdeen Museum is going to be at least partially placed in the Welcome Center. Or is the city council going to allow Mayor Shave to continue using museum funds for other projects? Public comment number 3. Dear Mayor Shave and City Council, the Aberdeen Pioneer Association and its members would like to express their sadness and frustration that the mayor and the city council do not put any importance or desire in providing a permanent location for the Aberdeen Museum. The city will soon have spent all the $23 million it received for the Armory building, which housed the museum, without providing for a new museum. The Aberdeen Pioneer Association, its members, and many citizens of the community have donated many artifacts and family treasures to the city to be cared for and displayed in the museum. These artifacts are now stored in a rented warehouse space with no plan for a new museum. Many citizens and the friends of the museum put many hours of work and effort to create the museum. They got the Swanson brothers to donate the armory to the city, and they created the museum, built the displays, and amassed an impressive collection of artifacts. The museum was a cool place. It provided not only a good depiction of Aberdeen history and stores, but a great place for meeting and events. It was a sad day when the museum burnt, but watching the city spend the insurance money on other needs without providing for a museum is even sadder. It seems with these actions, the mayor and the city are not showing any respect for the wishes and expectations of the people who generously donated the building, their time, effort, and artifacts to the city. The Aberdeen Museum was a great place and a subject of pride for our city and community. We need to create a new museum. The city needs to set aside the entrance money it received for the Armory fire and a special museum fund and come up with a new location for the museum and get it up and running. Thank you for your time. Aberdeen Pioneer Association, Don Lentz, President. Public comment number 4. Sorry, just a minute. Honorable Mayor Shave and City Council, this letter serves as official dissent of the proposed ordinance amending the Aberdeen zoning code listed on the agenda for first reading on September 22nd, 2021 by the undersigned individuals. We are concerned about the language in the document presented and the long-term ramifications and consequences intended or not that this may pose to the city of Aberdeen. The broad and open-ended nature and scope of the various definitions and services are problematic, and upon examination, one would conclude financially burdensome in the future. This ordinance is chock full of grammatical errors and makes contextually confusing references to, quote, the best interests of the citizens and property owners of the city of Ocean Shores, end quote. The language of this ordinance is broad and ripe for being taken advantage of by individuals and entities with the sole purpose of further perpetuating and frustrating damaging and costly homeless addiction services, industry, and enabling programs in Aberdeen. Additionally, the ordinance states that, quote, the city council finds that the homeless services uses land use amendment is consistent with comprehensive plan, enhances the public health, safety, and welfare, and is not contrary to the best interest of, end quote, is contradictory to what is actually in the best interest of the community at large. Also, given that the comprehensive plan is still in the process of being updated, revised, and considered by the council and public, how can we ascertain the ordinance's consistency with said plan? This ordinance, as currently written, is not fit for consideration, first reading, or passage. Was the State Environmental Policy Act taken into consideration when drafting this ordinance? It will be noted by many that policies, actions, and services taken or provided by the city and other entities would appear not be protecting the public, people, health, and or the environment in regard to the population of individuals that are subject of this ordinance. It is stated that these facilities cannot be prohibited from being erected in any residential zone or area zoned for hotels and must be within 1 mile of public transit. What are the limitations and rules? Where is a consideration for the residents in these neighborhoods? Aberdeen should not be adopting or modeling the same failed policies enacted in cities like Olympia, Seattle, and Portland. The city of Seattle spends roughly 1 billion each year combating homelessness. That equates to nearly 100,000 per homeless individual. Has this been a prudent use of funds? What positive outcomes can be attributed to this exorbitant annual cost? This is the 1% ruling the rest, plain and simple. The citizens of Aberdeen should be allowed free, open, and in-person opportunity for dialogue and input on this proposed ordinance, which is being infringed upon by the council's stubborn refusal to resume meetings in council chambers rather than Zoom. Online formats for these meetings and debates are inexcusable and cumbersome to many residents of Aberdeen. And that is our 3-minute mark. I will say it was respectively submitted by Casey Ann Morrison, Ward 1, Al Smith, Aberdeen, Norman Klein, Ward 3, Carol Tunkin, Ward 3, and Tara Croft, Ward 4, Patty Thomas, Ward 4, Debbie Percini, Ward 5, Steve Haywood, Ward 4, David Lawrence, Ward 6, Debbie Warren, Ward 6, Rob Warren, Ward 6, and MF Taylor, Aberdeen. On to public comment number 5, was requested to speak by a Connie Parson. I will check and see if she is in audience. Connie, if you are here and could raise your hand. I do not see anyone. Public comment number 6, we had a request by an Annie Montgomery to speak. Annie, if you are here and available and could raise your hand. There we go. All right, Annie, you have been unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate your time. I guess I just find myself every few weeks, hours before the Zoom, whether I should even speak or not, because I don't know sometimes what value it has. Usually I sit back and observe, leave frustrated because I feel like the most dire and urgent crisis in our city doesn't get enough attention, if any at all. And then I decided it's important I speak here. I think more citizens should on public record, as well as the people who are in crisis, so that they're forced to be heard. Tonight, my main concern, I guess, is just whether the people living on our streets live or die. That's first. And whether or not anybody wants to help out with that. I'm not hearing a lot of talking about housing solutions for our unhoused and any aid or assistance in our homeless population. For the life of me, I can't figure that out. I feel like I live in the twilight zone sometimes, listening to talk of museums and visiting centers and the amount of money being thrown around, and then in the same breath, hearing that there's no money for the people sleeping in ditches and bushes. I'm not being dramatic, I'm being serious. They're not all the stereotypical druggy dirtbags some of you make them out to be, and even if they are, human is human. It's devastating. We're out here. It's very sad. There's so many kids and families in cars, low income, drug-free people, addicts, mentally ill, elders. Just as regular citizens, we're out here because the city has literally sucked dry any and all resources our vulnerable people have to survive. We don't have one single low barrier shelter for a homeless person to go to, not one single sanctioned camp. We barely have public restrooms anymore. I just, hear me when I say that homelessness is never going to go away. It's not as something that's going to be solved. We have to have solutions for this. You can't just take everything away. The amount of citizens in our town that are stepping up to support a struggling community increases every single day. And the council members that are here who do support and are just great, we thank you so much. The population appreciates you more than you know, and your continued at bat. We're absolutely going to continue to work towards the solutions, finding solutions and to save lives, and obviously significantly reduce the suffering of our citizens. So I guess in short or summary, I'll just say that Aberdeen, after you've taken so much from this community and continue to do so, it needs to be time for you to realize that your takeaways aren't helping. Our numbers continue to grow, deaths increase, health decline, and it's all documented. People are dying. You took the river, you took Tassel without any alternative, and now you turn to them like they're the burden and the problem that you just want to go away. There's a lot of us out here who don't want you to, and we're not going to let you take from them anymore. Again, I appreciate your time. have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. And then finally, we have a public comment request by Miss Antara Croft. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. If you are here and could raise your hand. There you are. Again, thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak. And
I don't think they got added. I don't see them on or speaking.
now she should be coming on. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'm on there now. Sorry, I was muted. Could I start over? Okay, well,
Yes.
I'm Antara.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm Antara Croft, running for the Aberdeen City Council, Ward 4, and I've knocked on about 200 doors in my ward. 90% of them are concerned about the homeless situation as it stands now in the needle exchange program. All of them, no matter what side of the political arena they stand, 90% are concerned and want the homeless rehabbed, put in detox programs and elsewhere, and just off the streets. It has been studied and restudied, and we have great examples like Longview of where we could copy cities where it does work and not the ones that just keep throwing money at them or at these services. That does not work, and it just grows the cost. So it doesn't make Aberdeen look good, nor does it invite business, which is what we do want, is more business in Aberdeen. And even considering this new ordinance section permitting homeless services is opening the way for Pandora's box. This is opening the pathway for illegal aliens crossing the border from Mexico to come to Aberdeen. They've not been screened for COVID, vaccines, nor criminal histories. And there are gang members crossing the border and the people that have ill will for our country and could care less about Aberdeen. This is inviting more crime. And the statistics for Aberdeen are way up. Aberdeen has a score of 6 and the safest rating is 100. Aberdeen is only safer than 6% of other US cities. This is according to neighborhoodscout.com for Aberdeen. And this reflects the 2019 data released by the FBI in 2020. So it goes on to say that with a crime rate of 45 per 1,000 residents, Aberdeen has one of the highest crime rates in America compared to all communities of all sizes, and from the smallest towns to the very largest cities. One's chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime here is 1 in 22. And within Washington, more than 93% of the communities have a lower crime rate than Aberdeen. Thus, it makes one wonder, what is the city council thinking? Are they for a better Aberdeen, or are they promoting more drugs, crime, and homelessness? Have you spoke to your wards lately? Do you think the community of Aberdeen wants to be recipients of more crime? I'd hope you would put this ordinance proposal to increase homelessness in Aberdeen becoming a services mecca in the trash. This is garbage, and it is not helping our city at all. We want less homelessness, drugs, less crime, not more. Any move to pass ordinances supporting more homelessness and bureaucratic services is not helping Aberdeen. And all of you that vote for it would be held responsible.
Thank you, Ms. Croft. That's the end of our 3 minutes. And that concludes our public comment submitted for tonight.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Finance Committee Chair report from Katie Katzman.
Good evening again. Finance met tonight at 6 p.m. via Zoom. We talked through the items on the agenda and we went over the August financial report that's also been sent out to council. A few notes from the meeting that will come up in the reports. We talked about the city servers, and Director Stoll had a couple of our IT folks on the call to answer questions, and they reiterated that our servers and storage are about 5 years old, which is end of life for support and technology advancements that have come along since then. We also had a lot of discussion regarding the capital facilities plan, and the committee believes there's a need to get council feedback on this item, so Stacy can take further action if needed, and submit any follow-up questions back to our consultant. So with that, I will move into the agenda items tonight for finance. First of all, being I'll make a motion that we approve the expenditures and payroll.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the expenditures and payroll. City Clerk, will you read the numbers and then conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, a motion to approve accounts payable in the total amount of $988,375.17 and payroll in the total amount of $97,511.13. Check numbers 25252 and 74602 through 74748. We will conduct roll call. Andrews?
Yes.
Ellis?
Yes.
Francie?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Kochman?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Meskis?
Yes.
Richrod?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes.
Short?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, motion is approved.
Thank you.
Next, under reports, we have a report from finance and the finance director recommending that the city council accept the proposed bid to refresh the city network server per estimate number 1293 from Tech Connects, dated June 16th, 2021, in the amount of $94,234.77. I move we accept this report.
Motion was made and seconded to accept this report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Under discussion, you mentioned that our IT people mentioned that the servers are coming into end of life support as they're 5 years old. Typically, the end of life for servers in a commercial environment, like especially a government environment, is 10 to 15 years. So I'm curious where they came up with that 5-year mark, other than, yes, Microsoft's end of life support for their server software is technically about 5 to 6 years, but they provide extended support beyond that for additional years, up to almost 15 to 20 years. So I'm just curious where that 5-year came into play and why it's, being so adamant that, we do this, that frequently. Because that's a lot of money to be spending every 5 years.
Director Stoll's on the line, and I believe that Adam's on too, right?
Yep.
Requested.
Yeah, Mayor, can you hear me?
And Bobby, come on. Oh, there's Adam. So he can answer the question. I'm not sure if you heard the full question, Adam, but
I did.
Want to repeat it?
Yeah, I did. So thanks for that question. The equipment, when we purchased it, was already mid life cycle with the vendor. So it's not necessarily the software that's out of support, it's the hardware itself. And the vendor is no longer supporting that specific model that we have, which is why we're needing to do a refresh. But you are correct. Normally we would get a longer life cycle out of that. And we are expecting that with this next refresh of equipment.
Okay, why did we buy equipment that didn't have a full life cycle in the first place? That seems like we should have been told about that.
Yeah, I can't answer that question, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
Okay, Councilmember Ellis.
Yeah, it was interesting, the spread of bids for this project. this being the low bid and the high bid being like twice as much. And I'm not a computer savvy enough person to understand what is it that maybe we're not getting by going with the lowest bid. Or maybe we don't need all the bells and whistles that come with the higher bid. And does this proposal give us what we're going to need without also coming with a handful of problems, because we've gone with a low bid and we're tied to a particular contractor who, you know, maybe doesn't give us the full range of support we need, and our hands are tied, and that creates problems down the road. I just wanted to understand this better.
Sure, thanks for the question. So first of all, the vendor we're purchasing from is just a reseller. The Nutanix brand of equipment is the actual equipment that we're purchasing. And that's the equipment we already have. We already have equipment from Nutanix today. This is just refreshing it and getting it into a more current state that's supported. And then as far as your other part of your question, the new equipment would expand our capacity almost by double. So we would have nearly twice as many resources as we do today to support future growth with the city, including the museum stuff that was also talked about during the finance committee.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. If we're going with the equipment we have, are we going to get a guarantee that this equipment is going to be valid for more than 5 years?
I will have to get back to you, I guess, on the life cycle for this model. I didn't have that prepared for tonight. I apologize.
Councilmember.
I think I'd like to know that before we pass this report personally.
Council President Shaw.
I don't disagree, because it's called a refresh. It doesn't seem like it's a, you know, like a new extension. But my question is about the timing. It looks like this is, you know, we're approving it as an exception to this budget, but I noticed the bid was a couple months old. And are we going to actually spend the money this year and have this done before the end of the year? Or would it be more prudent for us to recognize that in terms of timing and capacity, this is an expense that can be, you know, in January or later, so that we don't have to, you know, use our cash reserves, but can budget for it? I mean, what's the timeline? If we say yes tonight, are we going to have this refresh accomplished before the end of the year? Or can we say yes tonight to have it done, you know?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's
yes,
okay.
we would have it done by the end of the year. It's a very simple migration process.
Thank you.
Councilmember Andrews.
So I'm just curious. I just noticed that noticing the bids we got. Did we send this out to our usual bid process? Because, you know, all the bids are all companies that are outside our state that I see. And I think it should be part of our budget process. It's September, we're starting to go into budget. So, you know, it just makes more sense to wait and just add it into the budget. My opinion.
Yeah, and the reason we did start looking at this now is we did have a failure a couple months ago, back in June. We were able to fix it, obviously, but obviously with the vendor no longer supporting it in December, that's why we started looking into replacement option.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Richrod.
Does this, I was trying to read through the report, does this include new blades or new boxes or or are we going to use what we have and put new chips in it? It's not entirely clear. I'm sure that it also includes new software as well.
Yeah, so it's all brand new hardware. Nothing's getting refurbished.
Thank you.
Councilmember Catchman.
Being as how we have a council meeting next week, I would like to offer a motion to table this and just allow Adam and Director Soul to do a little bit more research and bring it back to us.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to table this subject. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion is carries. This will be tabled until next week's council meeting. If you have specific questions, could you please forward them to I don't know Adam's. I'm pretty sure Adam's email is in the city email.
Yeah, you can either email me or Patricia or Wayne Schmidt, and we'll get the questions answered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Katie.
And the final item that we have tonight for finance, let me just get back over here. Oh, I'm sorry, it's the second to the last item. Is a report from finance. Yeah, okay, I apologize. Report from finance and the Parks Director recommending that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Rock Project Management Services for an amount not to exceed $166,675. And I would like to make a motion to table this item as well.
I second.
Motion was made and seconded to table this item until Katie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I please finish what you were saying.
It would be best to put a motion to table this until when?
Till it's brought off the table, but Robert's Rules of Order allows a certain amount of time.
So
But
you just want to, okay.
Under Robert's Rules of Order, unless it's brought off the table at the next meeting, it's dead.
Yeah. Okay.
So the reason that I would like to table it is to allow the council to ask some additional questions. During finance, it was brought up, and we brought a handful of questions back to Director Barnum that she was going to research, and I'll allow the rest of the committee to answer some of the questions. But obviously with the amount of this bid, it comes at a big expense, and it's not something that is budgeted. It's not something that we can use ARPA funds for. Our chiefs over on the public safety side also mentioned that there could be some overlap in work. So we really want to further refine this scope of work to ensure that it's reflective of what we really need and not overlapping with other projects that we have out there. So if there are other items that council has during discussion, I know Director Barnum is very interested to hear them, or they can also be emailed if there's something that requires a little bit further discussion.
Would you like to table this for the meeting on the 29th or for the meeting in October? That was what I was getting at.
Council President Shaw said that we have until the next meeting to bring it off the table. And then otherwise it's dead and it needs to be brought forward again.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to table this item till the next meeting. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Shaw.
Just to add what Councilmember Cashman was stating, the reason for a little bit more time was in our committee meeting, there was a little bit of sticker shock about how the amount this came back, and it's not a surprise that we went out to bid for this. The council knew we were looking for this, but it came in a little higher. And so we were just looking to do a little bit more comparison and establish a comfort zone for the council on the cost benefit analysis of, if we do this, what that might mean for the future of you know, of planning and grant eligibility and the different things that what it might mean for the city if we do this. So that was all. We just wanted to have a little bit more time to make sure the council had a comfort level, since it is a little bit more than we thought it might be when it came back.
Councilmember Ellis.
Would this amount be eligible to be reimbursed by grant money as part of the grant funds that we've already received?
Do you mean ARPA?
No, I was thinking of the other monies that went towards the Gateway Center project. Okay. Thank you.
Unfortunately.
But what part of our discussion in finance was that the Public Works Department went through a similar exercise for all of their facilities and everything. And a really solid facilities plan has resulted in millions in grant eligibility. And we just want to be able to share more of that with the council so that everybody understands that there really could be significant benefit to the city if we have a solid, well-developed facilities plan.
Councilmember Andrews.
Again, like the last issue, you know, we're entering the fourth quarter, which means we're entering the budget process. So, I mean, just like the last issue, I mean, we even have an IT services contract that I don't think's been renewed either. So, I mean, all that stuff to come up with in the budget.
That's very correct, but you were one that supported pushing the facilities project. So,
and I would just say, in all fairness, I pushed really hard for us to come up with something, and it was a little bit of a sticker shock on, but we could go with a you know, veneer type facilities plan, or we can go with the plan that might really generate something. And that's just kind of the information I was hoping to be able to share, the value added we get if we do this.
I don't see any problem to table this till next meeting. None whatsoever.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of tabling this report until next week's meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This will be tabled until the 29th of September.
All right. Last item for finance tonight is a report from finance and the parks director recommending that the city council authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding with Grays Harbor College for use of our park facilities for baseball. I move that we accept this report.
A second.
Motion was made and seconded to accept this report. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
I was just wondering if the amount that the college pays for using the facilities when the lights are on, does that pay for the light bill?
Stacy, are you on? There you go.
All right. The cost, they probably won't have the lights on. We have, I'm sorry, you're talking about the additional fee that's in there, that if they turn the lights on, does that cover the light bill?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we did a calculation to come up with that amount.
Super. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this report, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's all from finance. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Committee Chair Catchman. Public Works Committee Chair Meskis.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Public Works Committee met yesterday for a little after 4. We did miss Councilmember Gordon, but I know that the reason for your missing our meeting was very important. So glad that things are getting along with the 911. We discussed our agenda items as well as a couple of old business items. and some other things that will be coming up shortly, like our parking ordinance, which you all should have gotten a copy of the draft. Some really exciting stuff there. It actually kind of is. There's some proposed changes that are gonna help bring that up to date and get rid of a lot of the stuff that just doesn't make any sense anymore. So really looking forward to that. So moving on with our agenda items, first under public hearings, this is the date set for the public hearing on the proposed vacation of portions of Polk Street, Lee Street, and an adjoining alley abutting or within portions of blocks 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the Broadway addition to Cosmopolis. I move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to open the public hearing. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is now open. City Clerk, is there anyone or any letters for this public hearing?
There are no letters and I see no hands raised at this time.
Thank you.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is now closed.
Okay, wonderful. And under reports, first we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council shall authorize the Public Works Director to execute the agreement with WashDOT Local Agency Division to request a $31,114 increase in funding for the West Aberdeen Safety Improvements Project. I move that we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And next we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the Public Works Director shall be authorized to redistribute $87,000 from the Wynoochee River facility funding to the Lake Aberdeen facility and purchase the required replacement screens. I move that we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Any discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. Just under discussion, this actually comes from something really neat Public Works did that has actually saved us a lot of money. We approved, I believe it was just under $400,000 to replace the screens at the Wynoochee facility. And Director Sanger is coming on. Director Sanger, do you want to tell this? Because you tell it way better than I can probably relay it, or I can.
Yeah, I can tell the story. So we had in our budget this year $475,000 to replace the screens and mechanism at the industrial water intake on the Wynoochee River. And this was a bid put together by the original manufacturer for doing all the work. And we had our water equipment techs take a look at the job and they determined that they thought it was a little high. Of course, these people were flying out from Florida to do the work because that's where the manufacturing is. So they looked into the parts and they decided that they could do it themselves. They convinced us to give them a shot. They did all the work on that $475,000 budget for $125,000. It is 100% complete and they saved us $350,000 by doing it in-house. Now, that doesn't count their labor while they were there, but that's a nominal amount anyway. So based on the fact that we saved $350,000, the same screens, the same exact screens are on the Lake Aberdeen intake for the industrial water line that feeds the city of Aberdeen. So those screens also needed to be replaced. We were planning on doing it in the budget for next year, but since we had so much money left over, we decided to bring forward a supplemental to switch some money around since we could do both and still save $250,000. So that's why I hope to have a slideshow or presentation that these guys can put together. I want them to get some recognition. They've done a fantastic job. We talked about getting them a code or something. I know it seems trivial, but something to show that that their efforts were really appreciated and that it means a lot to the city of Aberdeen.
Thank you. I
Mhm.
went out there and looked at their job, and it's amazing that just what they did, how they got in there and climbing around through that large equipment to change all of things.
Yeah, they really had to think outside the box on a lot of stuff too. I mean, they actually took one of our mini excavators, hooked it up to a sling, used our boom truck and lifted it and dropped it down into a 25-foot deep hole. So they had the ability to lift those gears and shafts out of the, relieve the pressure off them and replace all the baskets. So I was impressed.
Pretty amazing. Any other discussion?
That's pretty
Seeing none, all in
cool.
favor of the. Oh, did you have something, Alan?
Oh, no, I'm just saying that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's what our public works does, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Anything else from anyone? Seeing none, all in favor of this report, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, and last report, we have a report from Public Works and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council authorize the Public Works Director to continue the downtown cleanup project by approving a supplemental budget request of $10,000. I move that we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to pass this report. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. From what we discussed in committee, the employee that's doing this right now, we're actually going to wind up hiring through Express Services due to some issues with the way that the full-time and overtime stuff it would work out for this particular person. And really, we feel that the job that they're doing is really exemplary downtown. And really important to keep the streets clean and our downtown area clean through the winter. So
Thank you. Any other discussion? This team that's been taking care of this issue has just done an amazing job. I get compliments almost every day how much better things look and how they are spotted working and how it looks so much better. Rick?
Just I want to pat these guys in the back as well. As a reminder, they picked up over 1,200 shopping carts. They are down there at the homeless camp every day picking up garbage every day in under really bad conditions. They are downtown at least once a week with a blower blowing stuff to the gutter to work with our sweeper to pick up the garbage. If you've been downtown, I hope you can tell there's a difference. And these are just summer help kids that have really owned this position. They've hauled up with the help of Public Works staff, 45 10-yard dump trucks of garbage from that people have dumped in the right of way, dumped in alleys, dumped on the streets from the tassel camp. And they have their own 8-yard dumpster that they fill up weekly, and it never is enough. So I mean, they're doing good. Whether I think we should be doing it, that's a totally different matter. But they are really owning this, and Public Works is paying for their salaries this month we had the extension of the money that the council approved. I thought it was important enough that we would keep it going, even though we didn't have approval to pay it. So we're paying it out of our budget when it wasn't budgeted, and we're finding the money. So, and honestly, we're down to one guy and he's doing it all on his own. So fantastic.
really good stuff.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all from Public Works.
Thank you, Committee Chair Meskis. Public Safety Committee Chair Andrews.
Public Safety met this evening at 6:30 prior to the meeting. It was kind of a short meeting, but we covered our basics. For the fire department, there was a second alarm structure fire at the 1400 block of Young Street. Hoquiam, Aberdeen, and District 2 all responded. It was quite a large fire. Luckily, there were no human casualties. Unfortunately, there were 2 dog casualties. Central Grace Harbor Fire Authority informational video is posted on the Aberdeen and Hoquiam webpage. If you go to the Aberdeen Fire Department's page, it's on the left side of the navigation bar. Also, if you just scroll over the departments on the front page, look down, it's actually the last item under the fire department. So either way, you can find it pretty easily. They also posted it on their Facebook page. The Aberdeen Fire Department currently has 3 vacant positions. Testing is underway to fill these paramedic positions as quickly as possible. You know, very important we keep all of our public safeties full. Over on the Aberdeen Police side, there's no items on the agenda. It's the first day of fall, which you know, I do notice it on my drive. The leaves are turning. So during the month of August, the VIP program, we're involved in various community-related events, National Night Out, the Grace Harbor County Fair. Also, they provided security to the Grace Harbor County Fair, working from very late in the evening until early morning. I did one Saturday night shift. I'm not as young as I used to be. Also, in addition to that, our VIPs during patrols located a stolen bicycle, that had been broadcast throughout social media. They saw the post and then they found the bike. They notified dispatch, who sent over an officer to recover it, and they gathered information regarding the theft. And the chief wants to thank the VIPs for being proactive and serving as those extra eyes and ears for the Aberdeen officers. For the month of August, the VIPs contributed 210.5 hours of time. The department is moving forward with their sergeant promotions. The announcements should be made by the first council meeting of October. Let's see. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Special agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 2 special agendas.
Yeah, and you muted yourself.
You muted.
My computer seems to be really sensitive. It seems like I don't know if you notice, it's bouncing in and out of mute. I apologize for that. If I go mute again, I don't know why. So we have a report from personnel and the Public Works Director recommending that the mayor approve the request to allow a temporary employee to retain full-time status through the end of 2021. This request allows a temporary employee to work full-time beyond the limits designated in the City of Aberdeen personnel policy for temporary employees. I move we adopt this report.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to adopt this report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. This next report is also being brought to us because it's an exception to the personnel policy and the job description. So there is a report from personnel and the Public Works Director recommending that the City Council approve his request to promote and increase the pay for Kyle Fisher effective October 1st, 2021.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve this report. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, Rick?
I just wanted to point out that we are not violating the job description. It's a little bit wonky. It doesn't call for to be a PE. It calls to get your PE within 2 years, but also to do 4 years of professional engineering, have 4 years of professional engineering experience. And Kyle has done that. And we got the city engineer. I asked him what he thought about his experience, and he wrote a letter stating that he felt he had 4 years of experience in a professional capacity under his direction. So we did meet all the requirements of the job description.
I apologize. I thought I asked in personnel whether it was an exception. So
No, there's no exception. I had intended to bump it up at the first of the year. I brought it forward early because we just lost our city engineer, and I need somebody to step forward and take leadership in that department, and oversee the other employees there.
Well, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So under ordinances, we have the first reading of bill number 2107, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aberdeen, Washington, amending the Aberdeen zoning code, Title 17 of the City of Aberdeen Municipal Code by adding new sections to provide regulations for the permitting of homeless services, adding new definitions to section 17.04 for consistency with new section 17.56.135, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. I would move that we bring this in for first reading.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the first reading. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I would actually like to make a motion to table this reading at this time due to a number of errors in it. There's references to, benefits to the city of Ocean Shores. There's duplication of definitions. There's there's a lot of things wrong with it. So I'd actually like to table it and send it back, have it, rewritten, have these things corrected. And if possible, I would really like to have it brought before the ad hoc committee before bringing it back to council.
Councilmember Ross.
We had some discussion in the finance committee meeting tonight about this, and Lisa Scott spoke to it. And one of the issues we have is that this is mandated by the legislature, and there's a deadline of September 30th. So I believe we wanted to check with Corporation Council about what happens if we don't pass this in the time frame allotted.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that if possible. And Councilmember Meskis, you're absolutely right. So House Bill 1220 was passed. We discussed this a while ago after it was passed when Corporation Counsel Patrice Kent was still here. We've been waiting to see how because every city within the state has to, with House Bill 1220, we have to accommodate this new request within our zoning codes. So we've been waiting to see how other cities were handling that. So yes, you see Ocean Shores, I really apologize for that reference, but they did a really good job listing out the whereases. Theirs still isn't approved. Hoquiam's isn't approved. We do have till the 30th. I don't know what the ramifications are if we don't. But again, we're waiting, and most cities are waiting till the very end to approve this. So, and again, I apologize for the errors.
Where does the word request actually fit? If it's a request, they're asking us. If it's a mandate, they're telling us.
It's a law that was passed requiring us.
Is it requested or is it mandated?
The language of the statute says that a city shall not prohibit transitional housing or permanent supportive housing in residential zones, and shall not prohibit emergency indoor shelters and emergency indoor housing in zones where hotels are allowed effective September 30. There are questions about what process needs to be followed in order to adopt amendments to conform to this, and whether or not your zoning code could prohibit these regardless of whether you have passed this ordinance or not. My reading would be that if you get applications for these types of facilities after September 30th in a zone where hotels are allowed, or even today you may not be able to use your zoning code to deny those applications. And that's a matter of state law trumping local ordinance. But ordinarily, amendments to the zoning code, if they're permanent amendments, have to go through the planning commission process. And you could adopt an interim zoning ordinance that conforms to the statute. There are a couple of alternatives that the statute allows you to consider for zones where hotels are allowed, one of which deals with proximity to transit. And that could certainly be something that the Planning Commission might want to consider. But I just saw this for the first time today, so I don't have a complete set of answers to that, but this is a mandate coming from the state.
So,
Thank you. Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I mean, if my calculations are correct anyways, we're going to be late getting this passed as it is, because we have 2 more readings. So we're not even going to get it passed until October. So, you know, the fact that we're going to be late with this, regardless, I would actually really prefer that, you know, the ordinance get presented to us in, you know, at least a format that, you know, I don't have, you know, a whole bunch of things marked out of it. I mean, I can go through all of my markups, you know, as different motions to have them, you know, taken out or changed. But the way it's written right now, I think, I apologize, Lisa, but the way it's written right now, it's really sloppy. And, you know, the fact that we're going to be late anyways, I just really like to have something that's, you know, buttoned up, you know, duplications are removed. And like I said, too, I think that it would be nice to, you know, potentially pass this through the ad hoc committee on the homeless, just to make sure that we have some extra eyes on it.
So you're absolutely correct. I do apologize. And it sounds like with Jeff's explanation, as long if we do get applications in, as long as we're not denying them, we can do that. It sounds like we might have some time.
Councilmember Shaw.
It did come up in finance, whether this went through the planning commission, and I think we need to respect the process. And if it's not going to get us in serious trouble, we've talked about low barrier shelters, and we have transitional housing. We have a homeless shelter, and we have a teenage shelter. There's no track record in Aberdeen of prohibiting these kinds of, I think we have conditions, but we've not prohibited them. I think my preference also is to go through our process and not try and rush through something that has, you know, so that so many people have a lot to say about. We need to hear from our planning commission and the ad hoc homeless committee.
Councilmember Catchman.
I don't know if that committee includes a legal review, but I'd also like our council to take a look at it as well. And I don't know if it's possible, Mr. Myers, but I'd be interested to know if we could also potentially take a look at some of our permitting requirements, because I feel like this ordinance really takes the power away from some of our neighbors to voice their concerns, and, you know, potentially have somebody next door to them that is not abiding by the same rules as they do within the neighborhood. So it'd be nice if there were some considerations for anyone that was applying for this to go through a process where there is some public feedback that could be given, and you know, more of a formal process up front, so that people could potentially get, if it's possible, some level of comfort. But the way that it's written right now, it sounds like somebody can just put something up next door, and there's nothing that anybody who lives around them are unfortunately able to do about it.
And I think what you're suggesting is maybe trying to have some sort of a conditional use or special use process to look at conditions that might be appropriate for these types of facilities. And that is, I don't know the answers to whether or not that can be done, but I think that is a reasonable question to ask and see what can and can't be done. The statute does talk about reasonable occupancy, spacing, and intensity of use requirements on these types of facilities in order to protect public health and safety. So it is, consideration of that going through the regular process seems to me to be appropriate.
Yeah, I think that should run in parallel to whatever we come up with on this, because it sounds like our hands are tied. We have to do something, but if we can also, respect our neighbors at the same time, that would be ideal.
I would totally support tabling this, or however you want to do it, to make sure that every council member is fully aware of what the meaning of this is and how it's going to work, and that we go through the processes properly. Councilmember Ross.
That's what I wanted to say, Mayor Shave. I think we really need to just take this back and start over. I don't know how the proper way to do that, but I would like to go through the process that we should go through. And yes, we need to do something. I totally understand that, but let's do it right so we have a document or an ordinance that we can all be comfortable with and totally understand.
Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you. I agree with everything that's been said. This just appeared on our laps without a lot of time to consider it, and without the context of how it actually dovetails with other zoning elements. And it would be helpful to understand those better. I also circled one of the whereases, whereas the city is working with regional partners in Grays Harbor County to establish additional homeless shelters within the county. And I haven't heard of that.
They turned us down.
Yeah, they turned us down. So, I mean, I want to take a bunch of these whereases out altogether and trim it down and just make it specific to Aberdeen.
Thank you, Councilmember Andrews.
Respectfully, Councilwoman Meskis, I know you moved to table it. Should we table it or move to send it to the Planning Commission?
I don't think he actually made a motion. He just kind of brought up under discussion that he would like to consider.
Sorry, it got lost a little bit there.
Yeah, we're discussing and nobody's actually made a motion yet.
Oh, all right. Well, then allow me. I make a motion that we send this to the Planning Commission for their review and consideration.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to send this ordinance to the Planning Commission. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Catchman.
Just a quick point of clarifications. I did hear Ms. Meskis make a motion, but it was not seconded. So I'm assuming since you seconded Andrew's motion that you're withdrawing the initial one.
I can withdraw the initial one. I thought I had, but I was like, maybe I did say
I heard
consider.
it too. Yeah, just
I thought I was
overly
listening. I thought I was listening
Yeah.
carefully.
Well, I thought he was just suggesting a motion to table. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a discussion. So
That's okay. Now we're on the right
we're
track.
on the right track.
Yes.
Margot, did you have a question?
Yes, is there any kind of date due on this?
The 30th of September.
I know, well, we won't get it back from Planning Commission by then,
No.
but I would not want to leave it open-ended because I'm afraid of that.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Mayor?
Lisa Scott.
Yes, we'll bring this back to the city council, probably the first meeting in November. We'll bring this up at Planning Commission. We'll see if we can get the ad hoc committee together with the Planning Commission and do that together. So as long as that goes smoothly, I would hope to get this back by November, but it could take a little longer, but no, definitely not open-ended.
One of the
And
things that could delay it is if the plan commission needs to have a public hearing.
ours
and
doesn't,
getting that
ours
scheduled.
doesn't. We do the public hearings with city council, not planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks, Lisa.
Anything else? Council President Shaw.
I appreciate the reference to the homeless committee. I was gonna say it doesn't require an amendment, but could the homeless committee be in the loop on the planning commission stuff so that we can attend that planning commission meeting for sure if we want to. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor of moving it to the planning committee, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And next item on the agenda is city council comment period.
We have appointments, Mayor.
We do, but let me find it. I was looking at the wrong piece of paper. Under appointments, thank you for reminding me. I would like to appoint Ruth Hamilton to the Board of Museum and History. And should we do both of them at once?
It looks like there's 3 altogether.
Would anybody have any suggestions to do all of them?
I'm
I
okay
would so
with that.
suggest.
Thank you. I would like to appoint Ruth Hamilton to the Board of Museum and History, Karen DeMasters to the Lodging Tax Committee, and Brandy Benerick to the Lodging Tax Committee. I would entertain a motion.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Motion was made and seconded to approve of these appointments. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Now for city council comment period. Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. You know, I look forward to this. Anyhow, I'm going to keep it really, really brief today. First, I just want to remind the public and everyone, my name is Tiesa Marie Meskis. It is legally changed. The name that I went by before no longer exists. So I would really appreciate it in communications if you can refrain from using that dead name and use my appropriate name. As well, I use the pronouns she, her. So once again, I would really appreciate in correspondence and when you're referring to me to use the proper name and pronouns. It's just a kindness. I will be kind to everybody else and refer to you by your proper names and pronouns. So I'm just asking for a little bit of kindness. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that this Sunday is the last Sunday of the season for the Aberdeen Sunday Market. There have been really good fruits, veggies, and everything else going on. So mask up, try and probably bring your umbrella and rain jacket. You don't know what the weather's going to do, but it should be fun.
Thank you. Anyone else on the council? Councilmember Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. When the proposal came before Public Works to extend funding for the person or crew that's cleaning up downtown, for me, it was an easy yes. This is an essential service, and is so appreciated by so many. But I also think it needs to go hand in hand with the city paying to have a Santa can that is somewhere in the downtown area a lot closer to the Tassel site than the current and only Santa can that people have to use, which is at the Tesla location. As we've heard and maybe even seen, without appropriate facilities, then it becomes a public health problem. There's pee and feces where that shouldn't be. And there are now about 20 some people staying at the city parking lot until the city can come up with another site for people to move to. We seem to be locked into managing this current situation as best we can. And to me, providing a Santa can is just bare bones basics. There was an editorial also in the Daily World not long ago also suggesting that this would be the least that our city could do. At this time, I would like to make a motion that that City Council approve paying for a Santa can to be on site at the City Hall parking lot through the end of this year.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve putting a Santa can in the City Hall parking lot till the end of the year. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I just was wondering, Councilmember Ellis, did you have a proposed budget account that would come out of, or just general fund?
I would propose it come out of general fund at this time. And I tried looking up what we've spent back when we did have a Santa can there. And I went rummaging through many budget statements and couldn't find it, but Stacy probably has that.
I know how much a Santa can costs every month. We would need to get an ADA accessible Santa can. It's $150 a month. I believe there's a delivery fee. It's not that much. And we could check with Director Soul. When we had the CARES Act money, providing services for the homeless as part of COVID was an eligible expense. And Director Soul is managing our ARPA funds. And so I'm not sure if this would be eligible, but it was in the past.
Councilmember Andrews.
So this one's a hard one for me because I feel like we should, that it might be a necessity, but unfortunately we've put so many of these up over the years and they've been vandalized. I think didn't one burn down, and the one we had over at City Drug got burnt to a crisp, melted. So I mean, I understand, but again, we need to push back on the county. The county gets this homeless money. The county gets, we need to put pressure on the county. The county should be doing something. They get all this money. They get all that. We don't have a housing department. All that money is diverted to the county, to them. So people need to put pressure on them and make them responsible, because they really should be. They should, we tried to work with them prior to closing Tassel and they wouldn't work with us. They sent back all that grant money they had. So, the county needs to step it up. My opinion.
Even the Santa cans that we had when the Tassel camp was open, the Santa cans that were in the camp were extremely vandalized. It was a terrible shame that our staff had to deal with all that. So when the Santa Can guy came, we made sure that he either clean them or remove them and put a fresh one in. It was terrible. Councilmember Ross.
Piggybacking on what Councilmember Andrews said, I know that CAP gets a very large portion of that homeless money. And so maybe we need to reach out to CAP and ask them to do something about providing Santa cans for the
Put it
homeless.
in their backyard.
Because they're the ones that are getting the funding for the homeless.
Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you. Actually, Councilmember Shaw had her hand up before me, so if you don't mind, I'll
Doesn't matter.
defer and I'll go after her.
Councilmember
Okay.
Shaw.
Well, you know, this council voted to disband the tassel. There is no tassel. And I think it's more of a management issue on why is it even still there? Because we did work with CAP. Every single person that was in the tassel by the time we closed it was either housed or put into housing. And the people who are left have not cooperated with efforts to assist. And so it's an illegal camp. And if this council wants to reactivate a tassel and start it up again, that's would be more appropriate. Than the longer they stay there, the less chance we get to call it an illegal camp. And I'm just wondering why the camp is still there, Mayor, when this council voted to disband it.
Could we discuss the answer to that in the upcoming executive session?
Okay.
Thank you.
But it's a fair question. I hope you agree.
I agree. Councilmember Ellis.
I was at the parking lot today, and there are at least 4 people there who have been there all along. They have not been given permanent housing or proper housing yet. They're still very much there.
They haven't taken it.
And I asked about the abuse of Santa cans in the past. And as with many things in society, it's very often the few abusers that ruin it for everybody. So we've got lots of people who would really appreciate having a Santa can and who would take good care of it. And this is true of anything, that there's always the potential that someone will come along and abuse it. But I think as a city, we need to take care of our people. The county hasn't been there for us, and for me, that's not an excuse why locally we shouldn't come up with $450 to provide some measure of decency for people. And maybe the library is another site where a Santa can could go, or CAP, but I think there's got to be one.
Rick.
I am unfortunately the one that's responsible for the camp out there right now. At least I wasn't responsible for Tassel when it was there before we shut it down. I am very concerned. We fight every day trying to close that down, and we've contacted our legal services about options, and they're still working on talking to us about options. And if we put services out there, it is no longer an illegal camp. We're accepting a camp in our parking lot. It's not an illegal camp, and that's our argument all along, is this is an illegal camp. So if you do this, it's going to tie my hands, and I might as well just talk to Jeff and say never mind, because we can't do anything. And that's my opinion. But almost everybody here knows I'm very frustrated with this. I talk about it all the time. I don't want to be inactive. I don't want this to be a blight on public works, that we're really actively trying to close this thing down, as you guys have asked. And this action is, I believe, going to make it difficult to do. So I see Jeff came on, so maybe you can speak to it as well.
One of the issues is that your public camping prohibition doesn't have any criminal penalty. So it's not a misdemeanor for these people to be doing what they're doing. And that ties the police department's hands to some extent. And the second issue is that the penalty that you have prescribed is effective when there is available overnight shelter. And that's something that Rick has to determine to try to address this. And then the remedy is issuance of a $25 civil infraction. So that's the remedies that are established in your ordinance. We're still trying to look to see if there are some other alternatives that might be used, but that's a $25 ticket doesn't necessarily accomplish the job.
Councilmember Andrews, did you have your hand up?
When we wrote the ordinance, it was clearly defined by the, by the 9th District Court that we can't make homelessness illegal. So we are limited in some of that, but, but I mean, I think that, I think Rick is very right. If we put a porta potty down there, we're just condoning what's there. So maybe they should go around the corner to CAP and knock on their door, but it's my opinion.
Councilmember Richrod.
It just dawned on me, last time I went by, there is a Santa can at CAP, at least one out on the sidewalk or near the sidewalk. Now I want to know, so I'm going to drive down after the meeting. I'm going to drive down there and look, but I think there is one already there. And I agree with the supposition that if we have an illegal situation and we provide for it, then we're on the hook.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Meskis.
Thank you very much. I would like to just mention this about the closure. The only reason I personally voted to close it was because there was potential hope on this, and the county was actually going to move forward with a shelter and we would have something in place. Had I known that our 2 county commissioners were going to just table it and let it die, I would have voted much differently, because now we're in a totally different situation where we have very vulnerable portions of our community that are, left out on the street, and we don't have any way to really handle them. Is a Santa can such a solution? Not really. I mostly seconded the motion here so that we could have this discussion and not just let it die. I do believe that we should engage with CAP and get them more active with these people and make sure that they know that if they have facilities that these people can use, make sure they know about them. That's kind of their job. So I don't know who I don't think we actually need a motion to have the city go talk to CCAP and say, hey, can you guys come and actually do something here. But if we do, I'd be definitely happy to make it, because we need them to be more involved in this situation.
Okay, Councilmember Shaw.
Once upon a time, the council had a representative on the CAP board, and to my knowledge, nobody here is appointed to the CAP board. Is that something you're thinking about, Mayor?
I've been on the CAP board for 4 years.
But you're the mayor now. Should the council member be on there?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Okay, the motion was to put a Santa can in the city parking lot. And it was seconded. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Ellis.
After hearing the discussion, I'd like to withdraw the motion in favor of talking to CAP about making sure that their Santa can is open and available to whomever in the public needs a bathroom after hours when other public buildings and facilities aren't available.
I will talk with them tomorrow. Okay, the motion has been withdrawn. Is the second withdrawn as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other city council comments? Council President Shaw.
I'll try to be quick. I just wanted to share with the council that I'm talking with the library board and the PUD. They want to present at one of our upcoming meetings, and it looks like the library will be October 13th. I don't know whether the PUD will be next week or later in October. I'm not sure what works for them. And following up on our fireworks, request to talk more about fireworks. So far, that ad hoc committee would include myself, Councilmember Meskis, Councilmember Richrod, and Councilmember Cashman. So there is room for other council members if you want to express an interest. I'm sorry, Councilmember Cashman, did I get it wrong?
Yeah, it's actually Councilmember Ross.
You know, I thought, second guessing myself, I thought, oh, okay. So thank you. I appreciate that, Councilmember Ross. But clearly there's room for more. So if you would like to express an interest, please let me know. And the gig on the fireworks committee is even if we voted this month on what we want to do, it still couldn't take place for another year. So my recommendation is that I'm talking about this tonight so that the people who are interested in this issue know it hasn't been forgotten. But my very strong recommendation is that we let our Chief Hubbard and his crew devote all of their energies to the RFA, and that we not have in talking with the chief, he's done some work. Once we appoint the committee, he's got some information to share, but that we not actually meet until after the election, because we don't want to dilute his efforts in that regard. And the other thing that I wanted to, I'll just throw this out there. I know that it's very stressful for our finance department and city clerk to be getting public comment clear up until 7 o'clock in the evening. I would suggest that we put a deadline on that, like no later than 4 o'clock the day of the meeting. I think it's very hard on the council as well to be getting emails clear up till 7 in the evening on comment that people want us to see. So I just would like to make it easier on all of us and suggest that we put a deadline, adjust our guidance and put a deadline on that. And one final thing, I will just share that the state officials did follow up with me, and I was interviewed at length on our concern about the appointment and hiring of city officials when it's an exception to the personnel policy. So I think they'll be following up on that. And if anybody has any questions about that, you're welcome to call me and I'll share what I know. That's it for me.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to recess to executive session for 1 hour to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions, and or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in official capacity is or is likely to become a party, when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence, and to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration could cause likelihood of increased price. Action is not expected after the session. Would somebody like the motion?
No.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to recess to executive session for 1 hour. So at that, we will recess, move to executive session. think we're missing 2 people yet.
Three, I think. We're missing Melvin, Margot, and Frank. Oh, no, there's Frank. Sorry.
So it's 10:25. And I'm going to call the council to reconvene from recess. I don't,
So are we ready to adjourn, Mayor?
I think so. I'm sorry if the other 2 aren't here, but it is past our reconvene time now, so.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion was made, seconded to adjourn. Unless there's any objection, I will adjourn the council meeting.
Good night,
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey,